Moving on for now and shifting focus to the Palestinian enclave, where Israel has sharply escalated its military strikes in Gaza. The renewed campaign coming just weeks after Israel paused its joint air campaign with the United States against Iran. And according to the Gaza Health Ministry, more than 120 people have been killed in the recent Israeli strikes. This includes women and children. The latest casualties rose by 20% since the Iran war was paused on the 8th of April.
The
war is still ongoing. It stopped in the announcement. But in reality and on the ground, the war has not stopped because since the beginning of the year, since the ceasefire, there were a number of martyrs. It is true, there was a small number at the beginning, but from one month to another, the numbers increased. February, March, until April 28th, when I lost my second son. I lost another son previously. Those two were my breadwinners. They used to support me financially and tend to my needs around the house and my life affairs.
Meanwhile, Conflict Monitor, which tracks Israeli attacks in Gaza, saying in a monthly report for April that Israel had carried out 35% more attacks last month than in March. The attacks, in fact, rose as Israeli military grows increasingly concerned in a way that Hamas is rebuilding its networks, rearming fighters and reasserting control inside the territory. Listen to this.
Since the ceasefire until now, the bloodshed continues. Every day there are Palestinian martyrs. There are more than 854 martyrs since the ceasefire until this moment. April was the bloodiest month, as the percentage of martyrs increased by more than 50% compared to previous months. The Israeli occupation was not satisfied with the siege, was not satisfied with the destruction, was not satisfied with what it did during more than 2 continuous years of war.
In fact, Israeli defense officials have warned Netanyahu that Hamas is using the current ceasefire period to strengthen its hold across Gaza. And this comes even as more than 2 million Palestinians remain trapped in devastating conditions within the region. The ceasefire agreement reached last October had temporarily halted large-scale combat after 2 years of the brutal war between Israel and Hamas. But then efforts to reach a permanent political settlement have stalled, with key issues including the withdrawal of the Israeli forces, the disarmament of Hamas, and also the reconstruction of Gaza. Israeli forces still control more than half of Gaza's territory, while much of the region lies in ruins. Recent strikes have also targeted Hamas-run police positions, killing several officers, as Israel appears to be intensifying pressure on the group's internal security structure. But then the crisis also extends beyond over 2.5 years of this conflict. Gaza's civilian infrastructure has been destroyed. Water pipelines have been destroyed, desalination plants have been damaged or forced to shut down, sewage treatment facilities have collapsed, raising the risk of contamination and waterborne disease. In overcrowded shelters and makeshift tent camps where thousands of displaced families are forced to live in close quarters, poor sanitation and limited water access are driving the spread of preventable illnesses. That's how the situation on the ground is. At the same time, restrictions on the entry of essential goods, including fuel, spare parts, soap, even hygiene supplies, compounding the matters. According to local and international agencies, around 90% of Gaza's population now relies on humanitarian assistance. Large parts of the territory remain devastated, with many families living in temporary shelters or tents. Children growing up in heartbreaking conditions. Aid deliveries have increased under the ceasefire, but remain limited relative to the scale of need. And the political arrangements expected to follow the truce are yet to take shape. A proposed administrative body backed by Donald Trump, where is it? The so-called Board of Peace is yet to establish a visible presence on the ground. And its absence raising key questions about whether the plan to hand over governance of Gaza was ever fully achievable, or if it has now been overtaken by events elsewhere in the region. All of this unfolding weeks after Palestinians voted in local polls for the first time since 2006.